everyone, welcome back to your own channel Our Past by Priya Jha. Today we are going to discuss about a very important topic in modern Indian history, that is the revolt of 1857. Well friends, it's quite a long topic, so we have covered this topic in two parts. Here in part 1, we will learn about rising resentment against company rule. So let's start. Well friends, what are we going to learn while watching the video? We are going to learn about the scenario after the Battle of Plassey. The Battle of Plassey, which was fought in the year 1757, and then major causes of the 1857 revolt, beginning and spread of the revolt, symbolic head of the revolt, last Mughal ruler Bahadur Shah Zafar, and role of civilians in this revolt of 1857. So we are going to learn about all these things in this video. The topic of revolt of 1857 will be covered in part 2. So friends, the revolt of 1857 is all about the conditions or the circumstances which were present in the country before 1857, the effects of the company's rule, and the discontent with the Indians. So, after the Battle of Plassey, Battle of Plassey, which was fought in the year 1757 between the British and the Nawabs of Bengal, the British and the Nawabs of Bengal, these were the main belligerents, and the the British company or the Britishers fought under this leadership of Robert Clive. So friends, after the Battle of Plassey, the company's behavior towards the Indian citizens, their policies, and the situations they created in the country for expansion of their rule had a very big change as compared to their policies before the Battle of Plassey. So, the Battle of Plassey played a very big role. The battle took place in the year 1757, and it played a very big role in the history of India. With the famous revolt of 1857, it had many reasons, and it's not the first revolt which took place in the country. Many revolts, many movements, many uprisings like peasant movements, then tribal movements, civilian uprisings, then military movements, these took place before 1857 also. So there are many famous uprisings which took place in before 1857. So the revolt of 1857 was not the first uprising, or not the first revolt, or not the first movement which was done in India. So if you are interested, you can comment in the comment section below if you are interested, if you want a separate video on the revolts which took place before 1857 and after the Battle of Plassey, that is after 1757. So in these 100 years, these 100 years were very deciding. Many changes took place, and the Indians, though not mass participation was there, but a major part of the country realized that the British rule was not in favor of their interest. And character and policies of colonial rule after 1757 made quite a kind of bad impressions in various sections of the country, and thus the British rule faced the revolt. So, friends, simmering discontent was there and the reasons were many. Let's check them one by one. Well, it was cumulative effect of British. Well, what are these EP, EE and AI? Well, EP is their expansionist policies of the British rule. They wanted to expand their area, to expand their territory and cover the entire country, and the policies they made to get their things done were not in favor of the country as a whole. Then their economic exploitation, they were exploiting the country. They were exploiting the peasants, the artisans, the petty zamindars, etc., and many other sections by implementing new taxation policies and things like that. So these were not in at par with the Indian interest. And then their administrative innovations, they tried to introduce many changes in the administrative system of the country. Of course, they were after their own interest, and in order to get their things done, they tried many new things which was not in favor of the country. It affected the positions of all rulers of Indian states. All the rulers were affected, then sepoys, zamindars, peasants, traders, artisans, pandits, maulvis, etc. Like each and every section was badly affected. Okay, and the period between 1757 to 1857, that is the 100 years time, witnessed many popular outbursts like religio-political violence, then tribal movements, peasant uprisings and agrarian riots and civilian rebellions. So these 100 years were deciding. The revolt of 1857 was a result of the policies of the British rule they implemented in these 100 years between the Battle of Plassey to the famous revolt. Now, friends, what were the major causes of the revolt? Let's discuss. It's quite a main thing to learn, quite a long thing. So please maintain up, keep patience, and let's learn. What were the major causes of 1857 revolt? The causes were many: economic, political, administrative, then socio-religious, then influence of outside events, and then discontent among sepoys. So let's take the causes one by one. Well, friends, the economy of the country was badly affected by the British policies. The peasantry, various sections like peasantry, artisans, trade and mercantile class, zamindars, they were badly affected, and as a whole, everything led to the pauperization of the country. Well, in the case of peasantry, with the implementation of heavy taxation, the peasantry were forced to take loans from the money lenders. From the money lenders, they were forced to take loans in order to pay heavy taxes that were thrown upon them by the Britishers. And in case when they were not able to pay the loan amount back, they had to give the money lenders their land. So in this case, the peasantry was weakening and the resources were losing in the hands of the Britishers. While in the case of artisans, the Indian handicrafts had no much demand as the British goods that were created back in Europe, back in Britain. They were in search of a market in this country and they were trying to sell their goods here. So the Indian handicrafts was not in demand, and the patronage they were getting from the rulers of the country, because the rulers of the country were in very bad condition. The products made by the artisans, in the case of textile or other products, they were not at all in demand, and thus the artisans were also badly affected. Now, as far as trade and mercantile class is concerned, the Britishers imposed very high tariff duties on Indian made goods, which resulted in less demand of the Indian made goods. The export was decreasing, was in very, very bad conditions, and the import was increased. So friends, when the imports increase and export decrease, it results in the economic downfall of the country. So trade and mercantile class, when high tariff duties was imposed by the British, they suffered a lot. On the other hand, low tariff duty on the British made goods was implemented by the Britishers, and because of the low tariff duty, the rate of the products exported or the rates of the products not made in the country were less, which caused in lessening of demand of the Indian made goods. Then the zamindars, the petty zamindars and the talukdars, they were also suffering a lot because they saw their land rights forfeited, and they started losing their property, and they started losing their source of income. And as they were ashamed to beg, so they condemned to the situation. And when these classes, the peasantry, the artisans, trade and mercantile class, and zamindars, they all suffered, it resulted in the pauperization of the country as a whole. Now, political causes. Well, friends, the policies such as effective control, subsidiary alliance, and doctrine of lapse, which were introduced by various viceroys, Lord Wellesley and Lord Dalhousie, these affected the country very badly. Well, what happened in this subsidiary alliance? Well, these are main topics and they need a separate videos to discuss, because if everything will be discussed here, then the video would be too long. So I'm telling you these things in short. And if you want a detailed video on these policies of the British rulers, please write your comment in the comment section. So what was the subsidiary alliance? Well, the alliances under the Britishers, they were forced to pay a subsidy for the maintenance of the British army. So in order to maintain their army, the provinces in the country or the rulers were forced to pay the British, and in return the British promised them to guard their rights in case they fight with other rulers. So it helped the Britishers in two ways. They got money for the maintenance of their army. They were funded by the country itself, and they got chance to interfere in the Indian politics. And this doctrine of lapse, this policy was about if a prince has no hire, no child, then the territory would go in hands of the company, while what happened earlier, in case they had no child, the rulers had no child, they had right to adopt their successor. So these policies were in favor of the company, but completely against the favor of the Indian rulers and Indians. And then the administrative causes, well, a rampant corruption was there in the lower step, like in the among the police, then petty officials, then lower law courts. So rampant corruption was there, which was a major cause of discontent. And many historians believe that the corruption seen in the country in these times, well, corruption is a kind of a very big problem the country is facing these days. So many historians believe that the corruption we are seeing today is the effect of the corruption that was present in the British administration of that time. The next was the socio-religious causes, their superiority complex, and the attitude towards the native population. Then the role of the Christian missionaries, they were taken as interference in the social and religious domains of Indian society. Then the attempts at socio-religious reforms such as abolition of sati and support to widow remarriage, then women's education, which was not accepted by the country of that time. And when British started interfering in these things, was not acceptable to the Indians. Then the influence of the outside events, well friends, first Afghan war, which took place between 1838 to 1842, then Punjab wars, which took place between 1845 to 49, and then Crimean wars between 1854 to 56. So these were taken by, and these affected the Britishers badly, of course, psychologically, but it created a kind of confidence and a feeling among the Indians that these are not the Britishers are not someone who cannot be defeated. So this kind of positive motivation was one of the reasons which motivated, of course, the Indians in order to fight the rule. Then discontent among sepoys. Well, sometimes it is said the revolt of 1857 was not a revolt, it was only a sepoy mutiny. Though it was not a sepoy mutiny only because the participation by others was also there. The civilians participated in large number. Then other sections of the society, their participation, the role they played was major. It was not only a sepoy mutiny, but the discontent among sepoys was one of the major cause of the revolt of 1857, as the actions at various cantonments, which resulted the actions by the sepoys and the effects of the steps taken by the British against the sepoys of the of the country, it was one of the major cause of the revolt. So discontent among the sepoys. So what was the reason? What were the reasons for the discontent among sepoys? Well, wearing caste and sectarian marks was not acceptable to the British rulers. So this resulted among the dissatisfaction in the sepoys as they took it as a challenge to their religious beliefs. Then crossing sea at that time was taken as it meant loss of caste. If a sepoy serving the country crosses sea, it was taken as the loss of caste. And in the year 1856, Lord Canning's government passed the General Service Enlistment Act, which decreed that all future recruits to the Bengal Army would have to go for an undertaking to serve anywhere their services might be required by the government. So this was one of the reasons for this resentment. So far we have discussed two reasons. Now let's turn to reason number 3. The emoluments received by the Indian sepoys was much lesser than those received by the Englishmen. So it was also one of the reasons. Then bone dust, mixing of bone dust in the flour used for preparing food was also a major cause of dissatisfaction among the Indian sepoys, and the main reason was the Enfield rifle. Why it was the main reason? Because the cartridge in the Enfield rifle was required to be removed for loading of the rifle, and the cartridge used to be covered with a grease paper, and the grease paper was made the grease was made of the cow and pig fat. The cow and pig fat was used to make the grease of the grease paper used to line the cartridge of the Enfield rifle. The cow or the beef, which is considered religious for the Hindus, and the pig considered taboo for the Muslim sepoys. So both the Hindu as well as Muslim sepoys, both the sects were completely dissatisfied and against use of this Enfield rifle, and the introduction of this Enfield rifle was taken as a big challenge, and it worked against the rule. So these were the major causes of 1857 revolt. Now friends, let's see about the beginning and spread of the revolt. Well, the 1857 revolt started at Meerut on May 10, 1857. So this is an important date we have to remember. May 10, 1857 when the revolt started from Meerut. But several other important incidences took place before May 10, 1857 at various parts of the country and cantonments. Let's discuss main resentments one by one. Well, when the spread started from Meerut, it soon embraced a vast area from Punjab in north to Narmada in south, Bihar in east, and Rajputana, modern day Rajasthan, in the west. So friend, it expanded gradually, but we are here to discuss the incidents that took place before the revolt. Resentment in various cantonments was seen. The 19th Native Infantry at Berhampur in West Bengal refused to use the newly introduced Enfield rifle. As I said you, the problem lied with the Enfield rifle, and broke out in mutiny in February 1857 and disbanded in March 1857. So in March 1857, the 19th Native Infantry at Berhampur was disbanded. So this is an incident which took place in the month of March. Now friends, let's discuss a very important person here, Mangal Pandey, a great freedom fighter. Upon him, many movies have been made so far. So you all are requested to watch these movies if you are a history student. Mangal Pandey was an Indian soldier who played a key part in the events immediately preceding the outbreak of the Indian Rebellion of 1857. He was a sepoy of the 34th Native Infantry. He fired at the sergeant major of his unit at Barakpur. So after his fire, he was executed and he was overpowered and executed on April 8. So as we know, in May, the revolt of 1857 took place, and in the month of April, he was executed and his regiment was disbanded in May. And another incident took place. The 7th Awadh regiment, which defied its officers on May 3, they also met a similar fate. They all were disbanded one by one. So friends, here on screen you can see pictures of a national hero, Mangal Pandey, who was executed on 8th April 1857 at an age of only 29 years. So of course, a great freedom fighter. I want to make a separate video upon his life, what he has given to our country, so that young generation could be inspired by such videos or such things. So if you want a separate video by me on Mangal Pandey, please comment in the comment section below. So here you can see on your screen pictures of Mangal Pandey. Now, explosion at Meerut. Well, so far we saw the resentment at various places or various cantonments which took place before the revolt of 1857. Now, let's learn about the beginning of the revolt of 1857. Friends, on April 24, 1857, 90 men of the 3rd Native Cavalry refused to accept the greased cartridges as they were made of the beef and pig fat, and on May 9, 1857, 85 of them were dismissed, sentenced to 10 years imprisonment and put in fetters. This sparked off a general mutiny among the Indian soldiers stationed at Meerut. So when the sepoys started raising their voice against the injustice that was taking place with them, their mouths were shut by the British rulers. Very next day, on May 10, they released their imprisoned comrades, killed their officers, and unfurled the banner of revolt. They set off for Delhi after sunset. So the revolt began on May 10. Well, Bahadur Shah as symbolic head. Bahadur Shah, who was last ruler of the Mughal Empire, he was made the symbolic head of the revolt. Why it was done and what were the aftermaths? Let's see. In Delhi, the local infantry at Delhi joined the infantry which came from the Meerut. They killed their own European officers, including Simon Fraser, the political agent, and they seized the city. The aged and powerless Bahadur Shah Zafar ruled. The Mughal Empire started declining after the death of Aurangzeb in the year 1707 because the later rulers were not that powerful, or you can say not that politically capable to fight the outsiders. So the aged and powerless Bahadur Shah Zafar was proclaimed the Emperor of India. It cannot be said that it was a this thing cannot be taken or seen as a religious matter, because the sepoys or the civilians, the peasantry, every section accepted him as a ruler, accepted the rule of the Mughal Empire in the country, though many fights were being held between the Mughals in India and the native rulers in India. But then at this time, Bahadur Shah, a Mughal ruler, was accepted, he was proclaimed as the Emperor of India because no single face was available at that time. With this single act, the sepoys had transformed a mutiny of soldiers into a revolutionary war, while all Indian chiefs who took part in the revolt hastened to proclaim their loyalty to the Mughal emperor. So, every possible chief was taking part in the revolt, and in later in part 2 of the video we will see the reasons behind the failure of the revolt. But so far we need to learn that the country accepted Bahadur Shah as their emperor, and here on the screen you can see Bahadur Shah when he was in Rangoon, when he was sent to Rangoon by the Britishers. So Bahadur Shah sent letters to all the chiefs and rulers of India to organize a confederacy of Indian states in order to fight and replace the British regime. Though the revolt did not get support of the masses, but it played a major role in creating a kind of confidence, or you can say a kind of feeling among the countrymen that a foreign power was against their favors. So entire Bengal soon rose in revolt, which spread quickly. It expanded to other parts: Awadh, Rohilkhand, the Doab region between the Ganges and Yamuna, then Bundelkhand, central India, and large parts of Bihar and East Punjab. They shook off the British authority. Civilians joined the movement. So the 1857 revolt, many a times this question has been asked, then that why the revolt of 1857 cannot be taken as only a sepoy mutiny, because it had a mass participation of various other sections, and we are here discussing about the role of the civilians. Revolt of the sepoys was accompanied by a rebellion of the civil population, particularly in northwestern provinces and Awadh. So here in these provinces and Awadh region, their participation could be seen. Widespread participation in the revolt was by all the sections, which included peasantry, the artisans, shopkeepers, day laborers, zamindars, religious mendicants, priests, and civil servants, which gave it real strength as well as the character of a popular revolt. Peasants and petty zamindars, their fight was against the money lenders and big zamindars. So they got an opportunity to raise their voices against the grievances to the money lenders and big zamindars. So the rights of the peasants and petty zamindars were being badly affected by money lenders and big zamindars, and they took the revolt as an opportunity to destroy money lenders account books and debt records, because they were keen to take back the lands of the peasants and petty zamindars. So they moved towards destruction of the account books and debt records of the money lenders. Also attacked were British established law courts, then revenue offices known as tehsils, then revenue records and police stations. It is said that among 1.5 lakhs man who died fighting the English in Awadh, 1 lakh were civilians. So as per this data, we can say that it had participation, a mass participation rather from civilians. So friends, here part 1 we have covered major points of under the part 1 of the video, and in part 2 of the video of 1857 revolt we will cover the points mentioned below. So we will discuss about storm centers and leaders of the revolt, then suppression of the revolt by the Britishers, then reasons behind the failure, what was the nature of the revolt and the consequences of the revolt, and significance of the revolt for the country. So all these points will be covered in part 2 of the video. So here friends, the video ends. If you like the video, please give it a big thumbs up and comment to make a video on any topic. Please give your precious comments, or if you want the video to be improved, please comment. If you like the video, share it with your friends, and please subscribe to my channel.